Leverage the dissatisfaction gap. In this video, which has been taken from the salesman.org archives, you're going to learn exactly what the dissatisfaction gap is and how you can leverage it to get more deals done this year so you can crush your sales quota. So let's start off all of this with the dissatisfaction gap. Now, to get in front of the right person at precisely the right time, we need to understand what the dissatisfaction gap is. We define the dissatisfaction gap as the status quo. So imagine someone coming into work each day and just continually dealing with problems. Well, they're constantly putting out fires, they're hustling hard, but everything seems to be, in their minds anyway, just working just well enough that they're going to keep their job. At that point, why would they want to change everything? Perhaps they're living in and working in a house of cards that at any moment could fall apart, but until it does, they're fine just to keep plodding along. This is because pain in the buyer's mind, the death by 1,000 cuts that they're currently facing, well, that's less pain than the huge pain of changing suppliers, implementing a new system, or buying a new product. Buyers get happy with the status quo because, well, at least even if it isn't the best solution, it is a reliable one. That is why it's just so difficult to get prospects' attention when there's been no trigger event in their environment to encourage them to break the status quo that they fell into. Now, all of this changes in an instant when there is an external factor that comes in and sideswipes the buyer's daily routine. Perhaps there are some government regulatory changes. Maybe the buyer's team gets made redundant. Who knows? It could be anything. But at this point, the buyer can no longer rely on the status quo and just continuing to do what they've always done because it's no longer sufficient for them to keep their job. And if you were to get on the phone with them at this moment, this very moment, well, they're going to be ecstatic to speak with you. But just a few days earlier, they wouldn't have even dreamed of picking up the phone to a pesky salesperson like you and I. So there's a specific moment in all of this change of the status quo where the buyer goes from living life as usual, even if it's painful, through the dissatisfaction gap to start searching for solutions, and that is what we want to capitalize on. So let's talk about timing the dissatisfaction gap now that we know what it is. Because if we wait for when the buyer is actually searching for solutions to engage with them, we're going to come up against a couple of issues. Firstly, they could be searching for someone else's solution. If your marketing isn't very good, if your company's marketing isn't very good, and not yours at that point that you make contact, and so you're already a step behind. Even more distressing is if they reach out, if they communicate with a salesperson that isn't us, one of our competitors, because then the competitor can mold the product search that the buyer is going through. They can instill thoughts into the buyer that make our own product redundant. So clearly we want to be in control of this process. We need to jump in, we need to communicate with the potential partner at the right point before anyone else can. So our goal with all of this with trigger event selling is to make contact during the dissatisfaction gap. And we can define the dissatisfaction gap as the point where buyers are unhappy about where they are, they've decided something's got to change, but they've not yet started searching for new products, alternatives just quite yet. So just to reiterate that, they've decided they've got to change. Over here would be they've started looking for products. We want to catch them in the middle of those two steps. Because at this point, the buyer has massive desire to solve their problem, and importantly for us, no other sales professional has their attention just yet. And so again, if we can capture their attention here, we're way in the lead to win the deal. And the data actually shows this. The data shows that you are 5 times more likely to win a sale when you are the first sales professional to engage the prospect as they enter the dissatisfaction gap. There's also the opportunity to add way more value in this period of back and forth with a potential partner as well. You can speed up the buying process by sharing your insights on the competitive landscape, how to solve the problem the buyer is facing if you come up with and share alternative solutions to what the prospect was planning even, or adding this extra layer of value can turn you from that stereotypical, annoying, pestering salesperson just trying to close a deal. It can turn you from that into a real trusted advisor instantly. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click subscribe, leave a comment below what you thought about the video and the content itself, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.